Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is June 1st, 2019. I know this episode is coming out a little bit late, but things happen. Life happens. Before we go into today's episode, I wanted to go into a couple things. First and foremost, the next two episodes of this show may be coming early because I am due to go on a bit of a family road trip here soon. Just take some time away, reevaluate a few things, that sort of stuff. Nothing big's going on. No need to worry, I'm perfectly fine. And also, to coincide with tonight's episode, a case has come forward I'm going to need y'all's help on. A family out of the Pittsburgh area has reached out to me in regards to a phenomenon that seems to be attached to them. It appears that a mean sumbitch who was on the property of the original house this all took place in has followed this family around and may have been harassing the children involved. Those of you who have known my work long enough would know that nothing more pisses me off than when kids get involved. So I would like to very much help this family. And due to some of the factors in the case, I believe there might be some magical methods we can pursue in order to finally eliminate this problem. Soon a video on my YouTube channel will launch describing details of the case a bit more, as well as more information on what I need you all to do. You know, you hear people complain about thoughts and prayers doing nothing. Well, they can actually do something if applied in the right situation. So I need you all to keep this family within your prayers. I will explain more in the video later on of what I'm going to do to try to help this family. Because it seems they also had a habit of people showing up, saying they're going to try to help out, then all of a sudden they disappear on them. They ghost them. I'm not going to do that. Unfortunately, don't really have a lot of contacts within the Pittsburgh area, so this is the best option. Now, what I'm going to do with this case also has to do with what I'm going to talk about on tonight's episode. For tonight, we are going to talk the anatomy of angels. Beings of light, extraterrestrial in origin. Let's discuss that. To which I'm going to follow up next week, or on the next episode I should say, with the anatomy of demons. Malevolent forces, or just regular spirits. Then for the episode after that, which is originally slated for the 14th, to coincide with the release of Men in Black International, I'm going to do an episode on the real-life Men in Black encounters. And trust me, these are not the family-friendly Tommy Lee Jones, Will Smith, Chris Hemsworth types that these movies portray them as. They're mean, and according to some accounts, they ain't afraid to kill. That's what's planned for the next 3 episodes. My name is Dakota Frandsen. Stay tuned right after this commercial break, and we'll get right into it. Hey everyone, Dakota Frandsen here, Specialist of the Strange. I just wanted to come with you real quick about potentially doing your own podcast. Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? Maybe you got a lot of questions like, how do I record? How do I get my show into all these apps that are out there? How can I make money? There are probably several thousand other questions about getting this show off the ground that you have been formulating and communicating in your mind. And I'm here to tell you that there is a very simple answer to this. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, distributing your show. And best of all, it is 100% free. Get all the perks from the other guys without having to pay for subscription fees. And best of all, it is easy. And in fact, Anchor can match you up with sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast right now, which means you can get paid doing what you love. Isn't that the fucking dream, my friends? In fact, that's actually what I'm trying to do right now by reading this ad for you. It is amazing. It helps ease the process for guests, putting on music, whatever you want to do. So if you want to start your podcast, make some money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start to join me and several other fabulous people already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. And I cannot wait to hear you on the air. Now what exactly are angels? Oftentimes, you're probably going to be thinking the stereotypical image. People wearing funky white robes and have gigantic ass wings shooting out of their back. But what exactly are they? Often, the dictionary definition goes as follows. A spiritual being believed to act as an attendant, agent, or messenger of God, conventionally represented in human form with wings and a long robe. But if you look through some of the scriptures and if you look through some of the accounts of angel encounters, there is so much more present. So what exactly are they? We can take the ancient aliens approach and just dub them as beings from another planet. Maybe they are beings from higher dimensions, or as some people suggested, or what we see as angels are merely future projections of ourselves within the Holy Ghost, as some people have tried to suggest to me. But I don't want to look at just what the lore says, or what people say, because a lot of people, due to the nature of these things, tend to twist the facts. We're here to change that. If we're going to pursue this research in any way, shape, or form, what needs to be done is to settle on a universally recognized definition. This applies to ghosts, demons, angels, Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, anything like that. Oh, would you leave me alone? Sorry, fucking email alerts. But anyway, what I want to look at is, what are angels made of? How are they made? How are they born? What is their purpose, if any? And what are they like? I want to dig into that and discuss that. We might make some references throughout various religious texts, but that's to only build upon what is the truth. Because like I always say, nearly every account, every myth, every story, every legend has at least 1% truth in its very foundations. Finding out what that truth is always and will be the most difficult part. Not accounting assholes that think they know better than you. So here we go. Now, the name of this episode is The Anatomy of Angels. I'm not talking, physical anatomy to where we discuss mutations that would cause them to have their wings. No. In fact, by all accounts, the statement of wings and the appearance of wings on angels was originally meant as a metaphor for how they seem to be able to move through the air, to suddenly appear, to move very fast, things of that nature. I'm talking about how angels became what they are. And this is going to require a brief understanding of a few different topics. Reincarnation, dimensional frameworks of the cosmos, and the evolution of the human soul. Now, I've discussed those topics a few times on this show and on previous incarnations of this show, but I'm going to go through it a bit more. Reincarnation seems to play a big factor. Or at least the mechanics that allow for reincarnation seem to be what allow for angels to come into existence at all. A lot of the teachings behind reincarnations, to put it simply, indicate we have to face some sort of grand test through each one of the lives we get to live out. Now you hear the jokes that, in my next life I'm going to come back as a dung beater. Not necessarily. All accounts of reincarnation through most cultures seem to stay within human bounds. There's some cultures within South Asia, I believe, don't quote me on that try to treat worms with respect because they believe they carry the spiritual energies of their mother. Now that could easily just be the concept of the soul being something tangible and edible, apparently, whereas worms would likely feast upon the dead. However, worms don't have the complex neural networks in order to contain some sort of soul matrix. In fact, if my research has any indications on how a soul matrix is possible, only mammals, some types of plants, I'll explain more, and birds have the underlying mechanics for the soul to continue. That's why we don't necessarily hear about ghost bugs, ghost fish. That would be a new one. Ghost, now inanimate objects, those are merely manifestations of one's own memory. There's enough of an attachment to that physical object to give it a seemingly spiritual form. However, that kind of topic would be for another episode altogether. Essentially, there's a chemical that is considered a highly hallucinogenic drug known as DMT. It is naturally produced within most mammals, some species of birds, and some plants, obviously. Now, for the soul matrix, in order to work, how a soul tends to appear seems to have something to do with one's own mental image of themselves. That image may actually alter over time. If someone was mentally ill, chances are, say like schizophrenic, dissociative identity disorders, things of that nature, those seem to somehow play into how a spirit can actually manifest. Now, with reincarnation, a lot of the teachings say that you have to go through many different life trials and achieve certain life goals. Some circles even say that every spirit makes some sort of deal in order to be born on this earth. Oftentimes, we forget it, but it's believed that it becomes a subconscious thing to where once we find some sort of remnant of that deal, it feels like some sort of spiritual calling. Now, of course, in Buddhist religions, they say if you follow certain teachings, fasting, meditation, you can hit the fast forward button on your reincarnation process, skip over having to reincarnate several times onto an earthly plane, and go straight into nirvana. Achieve heavenly peace. In fact, some mummified Buddhist monk remains are believed to be subjects who have actually achieved this state. And they are still very much alive in some form. However, their physical body is too deteriorated in order to really function. This sparks interest in me. Now, what else could be a factor? Ancestral spirits we hear of in many Native American cultures. The spirits of our ancestors guiding us and also influencing nature around us. While there were many gods in these sorts of tribes, most of their prayers, most of their honor and respect went to their deceased family members. They spoke of gods, they spoke of star people, but their prayers went to nature because they saw that as the grandmother, Mother Nature. Now, where am I going with this? Here's what I believe. And this does take some creative liberties, but if you really think about it, it seems to be the case. The evolution of the soul starts at the Big Bang. Creation of stars, planets, light. Light travels through the universe. Star matter travels through the universe. Influences, becomes like a mix of chemical compositions, creates life. The soul matrix doesn't seem to start its very foundations until early human specimens. There are some beings that are said to when they manifest, they look like cavemen. Now going on to more modern man stages. The soul doesn't seem to enter a body until the brain is fully formed and able to house it. And you say, Dakota, there's talk of children's spirits popping up when they're 6 years old all the time. Yes, that has happened, but that's not part of it. That's part of it, which I will explain later. We go through our life. Say we try to stay halfway decent people. We help others. We grow old. We die. We go to the light. Now, while it is speculated that the quote-unquote light is merely a side effect of sensory deprivation that happens within our final moments of life, there's also a physical manifestation. We cross over to the other side to where some beings suggest we are faced with a choice. Whether we go up, we go down, or we try again. We can choose if we want to go to heaven or hell. God doesn't make that choice. Now, there seems to be some cases where, say, a child were to die at a young age. Certain traumatic deaths that didn't fall under the grand plan, whatever that happens to be. Reincarnation, in some cases, can be a default to give that person another chance at life. Now, let's say they go through a few different life cycles. They didn't follow Buddhist teachings in order to hit the fast forward button. They go through their quote-unquote final life cycle. At the moment of their death, it has been observed that sometimes a loved one who has already passed away, now it doesn't have to be anybody family. It can be father, grandfather, teacher, best friend, wife, daughter. That person helps come through to help you cross over. Where you are faced with a playback of all your life cycles. And as your soul gets to move forward, you start parts of your soul, even if you just be reincarnated, still remain in spiritual planes. They can be influenced within nature. We have ancestral spirits, we have nature. Then we start to move into angel territory. Potentially God-like territory. And then as we continue to go, we go through more life cycles, we become more capable of handling our new status. We get to move higher and higher and higher. How long this process takes, I don't know. Obviously, just with the reincarnation factor alone, it could take generations. But this is the basic framework. Because if you look at angelic orders, there are hierarchies. And who's to say something didn't happen? Because nothing is ever truly immortal. Everything can be dealt with in some form. Yes, in theory, angels, archangels, even God can be killed. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. Now, I also mentioned that part of the understanding of how this process works may include understanding of the dimensional framework of our very cosmos. The universe we live in right now, the number of dimensions we experience, is 3 spatial dimensions and 1 chronal dimension. 3 dimensions of space, 1 dimension of time. So essentially we are living in a 4-dimensional universe. Technically, in the time that it takes you to listen to this episode, you've already traveled technically through the 4th dimension. Because the 4th dimension is time. Now, it is stated that once we hit the 5th dimension, that is when other worlds start to become a factor. These alternate worlds, they have the same starting points as the world we live in now. Every single thing that has happened in your life, everything you have ever experienced, everything within history is exactly the same up until this very point. This is where the concept of Schrodinger's cat comes into play, to where we don't know which universe we're going to live in, where you're going to experience one where the cat's dead or one the cat's alive, until we open the box. Now, as we go to higher dimensions, we go to the 6th dimension, we have worlds with different starting points, different points of history. We go higher, we go to alternate realities, alternate timelines, alternate universes. I believe this plays into a factor, because light has some very freaky properties once you hit the quantum area. It is believed that particles of light, photons, can travel through time, can travel through alternate dimensions simultaneously. And therefore, if the soul is some sort of construct of light, the soul has the potential to move through alternate dimensions. Maybe this is what causes the stories you hear of people accidentally slipping into other dimensions. This could very well be a possibility. However, I do believe there are other magnetic properties that play into this. But we'll discuss more of those in a future episode. That's a topic that I do want to cover at some point. Now, basically, as we understand the universe right now, mathematically speaking, we are up to 12 dimensions. And it is the 12th dimension that covers everything, nothing. Every single possibility, every single improbability. Worlds with completely different physical properties. Ones with exactly the same properties. Basically, everything you can ever imagine. Every type of world you can imagine. And that beyond your own imagination exists in the 12th dimension. And by law, the 12th dimension is made up of constructs of all the lower dimensions. How do you get a two-dimensional shape? You have multiple one-dimensional shapes that help make it. Roughly double what it takes to create it. What's it makes a three-dimensional space? At least 4 two-dimensional spaces. So on and so forth. So therefore, if angels are in fact higher dimensional beings, it means that they are beings that can coexist on multiple planes. Their forms can appear in multiple worlds at once. And so if our souls build up, what I believe is that the souls of ourselves within alternate worlds, when we no longer have reincarnation processes, no more life cycles to go through, we may converge. The various different versions of yourself throughout a multi-dimensional universe throughout the multiverse, I should say, may converge into one. All your knowledge from all those previous worlds comes together. And because there's more than one soul, there's a bit more juice to work with. Become more powerful. I believe the angels, archangels, even God, are constructs of this process. Angels are in fact human, technically multiple humans. And this is what allows them to appear on multiple different frequencies, because they had the experience in order to learn how to do so. Theoretically, we could do the same, but it takes a lot more work for us. It is also with this, I believe, mankind has the ability of creation, as God would. And wait a sec. What does that describe? Thought forms. Thought forms, topos. Imaginary constructs given sentient life, likely through meditation. Which brings into the question, are we physical beings? Or are we mere thoughts of God? That 12th dimensional multiverse. That is what God truly is. It is not some being. It is being. And that's what I believe the ancients have been trying to tell us over time. However, that knowledge has been tampered with throughout human corruption, human misconception. We, as a species, fucked up the image of God. And we continue to every day. Those who have acknowledged this truth and try to take advantage of it and manipulate others, who are simply trying to find their way. This is the construct of many religions, many cults, and so on. But the truth is out there, ladies and gentlemen. It's right in front of our eyes. We just have to learn how to see it. Now, some of you may know that I try to take a scientific approach to this. And while I've also stated on numerous occasions, I believe those who try to utilize explanations of quantum theory as their way of trying to sound smarter than everybody else. I still stand by that. But I also know to actually test these ideas out. We're going to have to kill people. We just can't do that now, can we? We could, but this would be a very different show if that was the case. So what can you do with this information? Simple. Start treating each other nicer. Show acts of kindness. Doesn't have to be anything big. All it takes to really save a life sometimes is just checking in to see how someone's doing. And that's the concept of God. The anatomy of angels. They are spiritual beings who are simply us in a few millennia. They serve to help us. And they'll help us out if you ask nicely enough. Their help is not reserved for the quote-unquote righteous people. And this brings up a lot of questions. Why wasn't so-and-so saved? That's hard to say. It's hard to say really without sounding like too much of an ass, but I'm going to say it anyway. Part of what will allow us to move on, to become better, to become stronger, requires us to learn how to take on the problems ourselves, to not rely solely on the help of stronger beings. Because relying solely on the help of other beings without taking some initiative on your own makes you infantile. Puts you at the same level of emotional, physical, and mental strength as a newborn baby. Now, why are infants taken? Well, the physical body can only do so much. And how we achieve the so-called perfect life forms that we also strive to become is because the universe itself was formed on a system of trial and error at a cosmic scale. Balance is key. The angels understand this, as well as demons. And that's why for the next episode I'm going to be talking about the anatomy of demons. The constructs are similar to that of what we just discussed here. However, it gets a bit more chaotic, a bit more brutal. So I want to hear your thoughts on this matter. In the comments, shoot me an email, send me a message, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter. I'm all over the place. I do try to look at all messages, but I'm only one man. I'm a one-man operation on this, so please respect if I don't get to you right away. And as always, take care. See you next time.